Thank you for joining me once again. Just yesterday, we saw Tinubu meeting with 5 state governors in Nigeria. So many of us were wondering what is going on? Why the emergency meeting? I haven't gotten my final reports of what they discussed in that meeting. It was a clear gathering of where the state police was ironed out. Now, these 5 states will be the states that will pilot the state police system. These states include Edo, Ogun State, Rivers, Kogi, Sokoto, and of course, I think a place in Adamawa. Why is this important and why should we pay attention to it? If you take a look at it in Sokoto, there's so much insecurity. If you take a look at Ondo, Edo, and Kogi, they are almost at the heart of the Nigerian map. If you take a look at Rivers, they are at the bottom of the map. And these places will serve as good example, Ogun State included. We know that the northern oligarchs' prayer is the current happenings surrounding the geopolitical affairs of Nigeria, wherein Burkina Faso is seizing the Nigerian jet. Nigeria is sending people, whether legally or illegally, to Benin Republic to start a coup. The prayers of the North is Tinubu must get distracted and not be able to fulfill this simple agenda of state police. I have always said that the only thing that I need from Tinubu's administration is clear: the right to self-defense as a state, which of course we can equate to sovereignty of subnationals. Why Nigeria today apparently seems to be a confused contraption, why some white people will tell us that Nigeria was created to be doomed, failed, and of course just destroy the lives of human lives that are there. You see, the very moment we begin to have state police, then those assertions of the British, those assertions of Mike Arnold will be proven wrong. And this is why we keep saying that the Nigerian government, the Nigerian state, cannot fail but to implement state police, but to implement a situation whereby every individual state will begin to cater for themselves. Yes, the issue of coup, the issue of Nigerian armies, being killed, the issue of brigadier generals being sabotaged, being ambushed, whether by their officers, whether by their internal saboteurs, all of this has taught the Nigerian people one thing: that before we can say we love Nigeria, we must love our state. When we love our state, we are able to protect our state, and by extension, protect our region. Then we can therefore say we want to be a part of a nation called Nigeria. This might sound absurd to you. It's a reality. If you take a look at the United States of America, 50 states that are there, the land owners, the plantation owners, the forefathers of America, who were originally, at one point in time, slave masters and slave traders, when it was about time for them to create a state called America today, 50 of them, initially I think they were 16 or 12, they had a meeting, they had a gathering. They told themselves, in each of my states, I am sovereign, I do not have issue, but so that we can be more formidable, let us coalesce, let us align and unite to form one single entity. Now, as this type of conversation be done in Nigeria, wherein the major tribes, whether you're a TV man, whether you're a Benue man, whether you're a Chikun girl, whether you're a Yoruba woman, whether you're a Lagos boy, whatever it is, have we ever had a situation to sit on a round table to discuss the very future of this nation? Have we? We haven't. So I will reiterate again: if Tinubu fails to achieve that round table conversation around the constitutional reform or change, total overhaul. Let him at least achieve the issue of the state police. Oh, yes. Because people in the Niger Delta today are saying that they're going to come back. That for them, it is insensible, reckless for the Nigerian state to continue to spend money on the Nigerian security architecture, which is, of course, the army, the air force, for over a period of 20 years, and yet they are not yet to tackle this Janjaweed. This is what the Niger Delta elder said. I'm going to play his video very soon. He said, Tinubu, can you please do us a favor? Can you just dismantle this country? Or you give us the state police, like I've always been shouting about. You give us our own immigration authority, wherein we can control who comes into our states and who doesn't come. In case you are coming with your cows, we'll tell you no. There's no way for cows to be grazed into these areas. That can only happen when we have our complete subnational sovereignty. But I will not end a program without telling you how the Northerners, I'm telling you, how the Northerners feel that a state police creation will continue to undermine our democracy. So I had to go look for a guy who initially said Nigerian democracy will fail at the very day state police is introduced. I went to look for him and I questioned him that, okay, how on earth has the Nigerian democracy thrived? Even as we speak today, there are people who are close to 60,000 in Nigeria with guns. Now, has that ended democracy? I asked him. I said, the governors that you think are Democrats will use the police, thugs. I mean, if at all we didn't see anybody, we know that of Wike. How some boys were in Wike's compound, just blasting the guns into the sky. So these situations are very, very alarming. The state police is non-negotiable. Yes, it's not negotiable. Yeah, because in fact, listen, I saw a video, I was almost traumatized because a white guy told us that in the 1900s, when the British Army conquered the Sokoto Caliphate, when they conquered the Southwest initially, that they had a lot of issues around the Southwest. Because as at then, the Southwest people were sort of educated and enlightened. So they still have that mental capacity to ask questions even when they are being taught by their superior. Now, the white guy said, when we got to Sokoto, what we found is everybody was just simply bowing down to the order of the king. So for this reason, we ensure that we will continue to promote Islamic jihad in Nigeria. So this is where we are. We know the enemy of this country. However, for these enemies to be sorted and dealt with decisively, we need to have the state police. Because I know that the federal police, the Nigerian army, cannot handle a cleanup in situations like this. It is what we have come to realize, that Nigeria, enough of the lip service, enough of all these things. If Tinubu will achieve anything or nothing, at least he should achieve the creation of state police. Because as I am today, I understand that if there are state police in my communities, in my villages, whether I am from Utukpo, whether I am from Efron, whether I am from Pantami, in whatever place in the country, as far as state police begin to appear with highly sophisticated weapons, walkie-talkie, then I know that when these things happen, it's just a piece of cake. Well, let's listen to that white Aboki who told us that the main reason why the Fulanese are so powerful today was simply because the British Empire handed over the heartbeat, which is the political arena, and the Nigerian military into the hands of the Northerners. Let's listen to it together.
And when the British colonized the North in 1900, what do we, the British, do? We very cleverly rule with a few hundred district officers through the Muslim emirs. it was the best thing that ever happened to Islam in Nigeria. Because before then, if you were a Muslim, you went, say, to the Tiv area, what would happen? You'd be dead. Under the British, you could go as a Muslim trader and you could live and you could spread your message of Islam. So the British enabled Islam to spread in Nigeria, and the British stopped the spread of Christianity because Lugard kept missionaries out of the north. He only let missionaries go to the parts that were not under Muslim rule, like the Jos Plateau. So the Christian church in the Middlebelt thrived in areas that had never been conquered by the House of Fulani. Why are there huge areas of the north of Nigeria depopulated today? The answer is jihad. Because those who weren't enslaved by the House of Fulani or conquered by the House of Fulani, they either died by the sword or they fled to the hills, like the plateau, like the Goza Hills in Bornu. And in those hills, when I was there in the 1970s, there were no Muslims, none whatsoever. The people followed African traditional religion and were dwelling Christians. Because down on the plain, it was the Muslim Kanuri, and they're the ones that slave raided. So what's going on today in the Middlebelt? It's nothing to do with herdsmen and farmers. It's nothing to do with Muslim herdsmen, nomadic Fulani, and settled Christian farmers. No, and it's certainly nothing to do with climate change driving out the Fulani. This is quite simply jihad. This is just an extension of Usman Dan Fodio's jihad by other means. But nobody in England dare call it jihad because they're all shit scared of being called Islamophobic. Well, I'm not. I don't hate any Muslim.
We need to understand, and we need to make the people in that building understand, that Nigeria, in its very essence, its very DNA, has genocide baked into it. Nigeria, in its very essence, has genocide baked into that. Now, it's just manifesting again. It's not the first time. Now, how can that be? And this is not rhetoric. This isn't over the top, is it? Nigeria's DNA has genocide in it. Let me walk you through that. First of all, radical Islam is an ideology of genocide by very definition. Its very own teachings, its very own methodology. Genocide is the intentional effort to wipe out a people group. Radical Islam only exists and only expands when it wipes out anybody that doesn't believe the way they do. They believe it glorifies their God when they conduct genocide. It is the essence of radical Islam is genocide. Am I wrong? No. Nigeria, its founding fathers, decades after the founding fathers of the United States pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to establishing a nation to be a shining city on a hill, a beacon of light for the world. We've had our issues, but you can't imagine a world without America. You can't. Thank God for that. Decades after our founding fathers did that, the founding fathers of the modern ruling regime of Nigeria were waging a genocidal jihad. The northern political regime was founded on jihad and genocide. Decades after our founding fathers. We also have to understand the type of colonialism that was implemented in Nigeria. It was not set up to expand the goodness of Great Britain. It was set up to be a point of extraction. Period. It was set up to be a point of extraction. And it was through the genocidal regime that the British sought to control Nigeria. They co-opted and sat on top of the genocidal regime. They didn't clean it up. They didn't want to. They used it for their purposes. And when they set up the modern nation that we call Nigeria, which they drew on a map, it was set up for the purpose of extraction and to keep the nation down. They don't want to buy finished products from a developing nation. They want to buy raw materials from an undeveloped one. And they set it up to fail. That's just a fact. So the modern nation of Nigeria was built on the power base of a genocidal jihad regime. And it wasn't that long ago. There are people here today who were alive when this was established. Am I right? Yeah. So it's not a surprise that there's genocide taking place in Nigeria. It's just following the template that was set up. It's inevitable that there's genocide taking place in Nigeria when the world looks away, when the body of Christ is seeking itself and its best life now. Genocide is inevitable, and we're just seeing it happen again. Thank God people are paying attention now.